Hey, Travis here, Exercise Lab with another short for you guys. So I'm a doctor of physical therapy for those of you who don't know me. And today I want to talk to you about a cool gripping device by Ironmind called the Zenith Gripper. The Captains of Crush gripper has been around for a long time. I'm a big fan of them. Zenith grippers aren't exactly new, but they're sort of new to me. I finally just broke down and got one. I wanted to try it out since it said it was a little more ergonomic. And so I want to talk to you guys about what I think, how they compare to the Captains of Crush grippers, and why you guys might want to get one. And so if you guys want to learn a little more about these Zenith grippers, go ahead and stay tuned and we'll get started. All right, so the first thing we'll do is kind of a quick compare and contrast. This is the Zenith number 2. This is the Captains of Crush number 2. As you can see, a little bit of a difference in the opening. There's a bit of a difference in the girth on the handles. As far as the height, you can see the diameter of this spring is quite a bit bigger. As far as the difficulty, the number 2 is definitely harder. They say that, if you're using a number 2 of the Zenith, it's probably more the equivalent of like a number 1 to 1.5. So as a rule of thumb, which isn't exactly exact, especially at the harder ones, you can kind of downgrade about 1. So, if you're using a number 2, again, it's about a number 1. If you were using a number 3 here, it's probably more on par with a number 2 or 2.5, although the number 3 is pretty hard. This knurling here, which isn't like the most rigid knurling on the planet, but that's basically this rough part here. And so when you're doing multiple repetitions, your fingers are going to kind of wrap and slide around this a little bit. And if you're using this a lot, which generally you're not going to use these for really high reps, but it will start to irritate your hands. And so if you're looking to get a little more volume in, what's nice here is this sort of billet handle. And so as my fingers start to wrap around, it's much smoother. And so I really like using a gripper like this because it doesn't chew up my hands the way that a COC might to build up a little more volume. So in that sense, you'll be able to do a lot more volume with the Zenith. So if you're doing kind of singles or even doubles, triples, lower reps, then that's where I think this number 2 is probably going to be handy. But if you're doing volume work, I think the Zenith is just much more comfortable. And so speaking of volume, for those of you who are familiar with a concept popularized by Pavel Tsatsouline, which is greasing the groove, one of the nice ways to build up strength is to do something sub-maximally and infrequently. So, if you were to take a gripper like this, and let's just say your max was maybe like 8 to 10 repetitions, maybe you do like 2 or 3, but you space it out throughout the day. So you do 2 or 3, and move on to something else, come back, do 2 or 3, come back, do 2 or 3. And so you're building up that total volume at a sub-maximal effort, which actually is a great way to build up strength. And so I like to use, kind of that greasing the groove approach with my grippers, more frequently, but less volume at any one session. And so for those of you who want to learn a little bit more about greasing the groove, go ahead and look up Pavel Tsatsouline. He's wrote some books on the subject. But greasing the groove here, I think works out really well for these grip strength devices, sticking around the arsenal and the gym here at, Exercise Lab. As well as in the house, because it's just a nice thing to keep on your coffee table or maybe your side table, something like that. So again, big fan of Captains of Crush. I definitely like these Zenith grippers. So nice job by Ironmind. Stay tuned for more good content, more good stuff in the pipeline. Hope you guys have some fun.